Welcome to the Nuggets Inc. podcast, presented by no one. I'm your host, Matt Schubert, joined once again by Bennett Durando, beat reporter for the Nuggets. A lot of stuff going on. Michael Porter Jr. to Brooklyn, Cam Johnson to Denver, signings, trades, depth on the Nuggets roster, 2 GMs. What's going on here? We get in all that and more. And we are back at the Denver Post podcast studio. It's been a while since we've been here. I believe almost a full month has passed. It's early July. Last time we met, early June. We're 4 intros into this thing.
Yeah, this is literally take 4 of the introduction to the podcast.
Some people thought I got a little inappropriate at the start of the last one. Just to list off some of the things that have happened since last we talked. The Nuggets have hired 2 front office executives, which was followed by a fair amount of hand-wringing. 2 executives for 1 position. The Indiana Pacers robbed of their chance to win a championship. Game 7, heartbreak. I still am not over that one. Kevin Durant traded to the Houston Rockets. And your Denver Nuggets with the A-plus of the offseason. They've acquired 4 new players while sending out 2, one of whom was basically glued to the bench for the, 3/4 of the season.
Mm-hmm. More than that.
And Nuggets Nation is happy, ecstatic. I might have another descriptor, but apparently it's not appropriate. Bennett Durando, how you doing?
I'm all right. Talk about a roller coaster of emotions.
All over the place.
In Nuggets Nation for the last 2 weeks.
I mean, people were just despondent right up to the start of free agency.
Pretty much. I mean, look, the Kroenkes built up a lot of bad will simply by taking so much time with the GM search and bumping up on the draft as much as they did.
Which it did not matter, apparently. One bit.
It's funny. I said during the search early on, like the one way that it would kind of justify itself timeline-wise would be if Ben Tenzer is in some way involved in this, because he has at least been doing the work to the extent that he could as interim GM. So it wouldn't feel like throwing someone into the fire in the real truest sense. And it turned out they get 1 new voice in there, someone to be collaborative with Tenzer, who had already been in place. Seemed like a weird structure. It still is a weird structure.
Still feels
no
like
doubt.
A weird structure.
But they have insisted on the record, off the record, that they are close friends and that this is a system that can genuinely work. And here we are looking at a much deeper Nuggets roster suddenly a week into their regime.
Can I just say one thing? If all they had done was trade Dario Saric and get Valanciunas back, I would have said, heck of an offseason, boys. Way to get going.
Here's the problem. They could not have done that trade without the first one.
Correct.
And so that is where this all begins.
They played chess on this one in a way that's pretty impressive. I think we had talked about so many different times just the idea of turning Michael Porter Jr.'s salary slot into multiple players that could help depth and keep them a contender, right? I mean, we talked about that ad nauseum.
Yes, and how difficult it would be because of his kind of iffy trade value, the medical history, just kind of the way that the contract is perceived at $38 million this coming year, $40 million the last year. So it always seemed like it would take some gymnastics to get that done to actually turn him into multiple rotation players. And they did it, just not quite in as cut and dry of a way as we kind of...
Not in one trade.
Yeah, exactly.
It took multiple trades, but it took multiple trades that when you put it all together, it makes sense. Yes, they have to send away an unprotected pick in 2032, right?
Correct.
And, whatever. You only have Nikola Jokic. once in maybe 75 years on your team, right? They've existed now for more than 50 years. They only had one guy like this ever. You do whatever you can to win with that guy for as long as you can.
Yeah. A lot of teams have never had this guy ever, and will never have a player like this. So,
so let me go through all the transactions real quick.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So first transaction, Michael Porter Jr. sent to the Brooklyn Nets for Cam Johnson, also the 2032 unprotected first-round pick.
To Brooklyn, yes.
Yeah, to Brooklyn.
And it's boom. It's out of nowhere about 45 minutes into the free agency window.
Like, and I don't think a lot of people were talking about Michael Porter Jr. getting traded. Like that was, I mean, I think it had been something they looked at and discussed before, but the idea that was going to happen in the first hour of free agency, I don't think everybody saw that coming.
Not at all.
And in doing so, they shed, was it $17 million?
$17 million in salary for next season. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
and 17 the following season, right?
Yes, correct. It's in that ballpark. So immediately when this happens, not only is there sort of the instant shock of having traded Michael Porter after all this speculation, frankly, for years about whether it could be done, but you process that and then you immediately get to the realization that, okay, there's more stuff coming here. Right. This is suddenly going to be a multi-maneuver offseason, a busy week for the Nuggets, an aggressive week.
Next thing, Bruce Brown. And not just Bruce Brown for the veteran minimum.
Yeah. I expected Bruce Brown to be back, frankly. He was at the top of my free agent list a month ago.
He was blowing kisses at Denver for a while.
Yes. I didn't totally expect it to be a minimum, though. And that's another bit of sort of tidy business and kind of sets the stage for the other bits of tidy business in the next 24 hours that followed.
So this happens, and the immediate thought is, are they going to sign another free agent for that mid-level? Or how are they going to bring – we know there's another move to come. We don't know exactly what it is. But now they're under the first apron. Now they have room, and they can do things with trades that they couldn't do before, which is they can take in more money than comes out, right? That's the big thing. And so next morning, afternoon-ish, I can't remember, what is it, 11-ish or something like that?
Yeah, late morning.
Yeah. Dario Saric, a guy who hadn't played a lick for the Nuggets, to the Sacramento Kings. God bless the Sacramento Kings. God, you just got to love you some Sacramento Kings.
Another team with a new front office, and yet
can't
nobody can manage to transcend the stench of that organization.
No. And they send Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas, who makes, I think, $5 million more than Saric does. Immediate upgrade. They now have a legit backup center. Legit. This guy has started most of his career. He's been good for most of his career, and he's just goony, physical enough that it's this nice change of pace. And if you really want to get physical with the team, I bet you could play him with Nikola Jokic if you wanted to.
Intriguing. I hadn't thought about it too much. It's certainly possible. I would like to see it at some point.
Yes.
Just because why the heck not?
Curiosity. What does that look like?
And it's funny, John Wallace had recently been asked if he could foresee the Nuggets playing double big with Jokic at any point, since that's been such a trend. Right. And he didn't. He was like, it's easy for me to kind of sit here right now when we haven't done anything and be like, yeah, that we could do that. That would be cool. That would be fun. It's hard to really know. I don't know that Valanciunas is necessarily the model type of center to play double big with him, because you want a little bit more of a mobile, kind of elite rim protecting type of big. Yeah,
but I would also say this: they're going against the Houston Rockets, and they want to throw Steven Adams out there with another big. You put Jonas up against Steven Adams, I think that's a matchup that works for you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. Nonetheless, it's a pretty reliable, durable player for the non-Jokic minutes.
Yes,
that gives you a style, that gives you some sort of identity and some hope to get through this just brutal black hole of a stretch of every game for basically Jokic's entire career.
Right. So within hours, next move, Tim Hardaway Jr., again, veteran minimum contract.
Yeah.
Less surprising than the Brown contract, I think, but still, he's a playable guy. Now, I don't think he had a ton of minutes with Detroit in the playoffs this last year, but
not a very good defender.
But
so.
he did play minutes for Dallas in some of their playoff runs. He's experienced. He can shoot. Seems like a nice guy to get on a veteran minimum contract.
I think that's the key with both of those signings. There's a chance that Bruce Brown and Tim Hardaway Jr., like there is some level of uncertainty with both of those guys where maybe Hardaway doesn't turn out to be a guy you want to rely on in your rotation every day. Maybe Bruce Brown doesn't. It's kind of hard to know. His last 2 years have not been up to the standard he really set for himself in Denver the year before. So which version of him are you going to get, right? So like there are questions about both of these guys. Neither of them is necessarily a surefire slam dunk signing, but both of them at the minimum, you take that every single time, I think.
Yeah.
And you have a chance to like get contributions from one guy on one given night, the other guy on another. Maybe it's Julian Strother's having a big game and you don't have to rely on either Brown or Hardaway on a random Wednesday. Like they have so much more optionality, lineups to work with, just guys that they can try to throw out there. Like it's pretty easy to see them playing a 10-man rotation now. And not having to, really strain to do that either. So both
Easily.
are really good signings for the minimum. And then on top of that, just excellent work with the trades, I think. And we can kind of talk about how they combine into one kind of composite trade in a way. But it's 4 really good transactions, I think, at the end of the day.
Fantastic transactions. And on top of that, they still got a roster spot. Mm-hmm. And apparently Vlatko isn't coming back.
Correct.
So It does not appear that is earmarked for Vlatko.
Yeah. I think that they kind of took a step back after the Hardaway signing. They kind of got to a point where the roster is clearly in good shape. Vegas clearly thinks that the roster is in good shape. I'm pretty sure the championship odds have skyrocketed in the last 48 hours. But you kind of have a chance to take stock right now, see how the market plays out on some of the guys who are remaining. Maybe you have a chance to go sign someone else who's a newcomer. Maybe there's nothing else that really works out, and you can go back to a DeAndre Jordan or even a Russell Westbrook. I kind of think that's unlikely that either of them returns, but not impossible.
I would be stunned if they brought Westbrook back at this point. I just don't know why they would need him.
Obviously, they focused their attention elsewhere, from the start of this offseason, and Westbrook felt that he could go get more money somewhere, maybe play closer to home. Sacramento has been kind of rumored to be interested in him for all this week, but that signing also hasn't happened. And then Sacramento got Dennis Schroeder in the meantime. So I don't know. The Knicks went and got Jordan Clarkson on a minimum. They were another team that was linked to Westbrook. So he's kind of in the ether right now, which is an interesting situation.
Do you think it would make sense to bring him back? I don't.
Not really. I just don't think there's enough minutes for him on the roster, and I think it's smart for Denver to kind of...
And do you want Russell Westbrook with not a lot of minutes?
Exactly. That's when you kind of start to risk a little bit of friction in a bad way. I think Westbrook mostly brought friction in a good way last season, and if he's your 12th man, then it's a different context, a different scenario. I think it's smart of them to kind of look for a fresh start and look for just other solutions to the bench in general this offseason, even though Westbrook I would still consider to have been a very productive signing.
Yes. He served his purpose.
So we'll see what happens with that last roster spot. I think they're going to try to fill it. They technically don't have to. You can carry 14, but the thing is, right now they are about $400,000 over the luxury tax. So it's not like they're $400,000 under the luxury tax, and leaving that roster spot open saves the Cronkies a bunch of money or anything. They're over it regardless right now. It's not so, and you can't carry 13 for more than 2 weeks in the regular season, so they can't just dump Hunter Tyson and a second round pick and then be fine and say, we're under the tax, we're good to go now, because you have to sign someone else to fill a 14th spot. So, I do think they're going to try and fill it, but we'll see whether that's in the next couple of days, whether a week or more passes. They're in a good spot. They've kind of privileged themselves to take stock of the offseason in the market at this point, with the good work that they've put in. And they were very urgent in the first days of free agency to get these deals done.
They got it all done in 24 hours. From the start of free agency to when they signed Hardaway, that was less than 24 hours.
Yeah. It's hard to look at. It's hard to have watched the Nuggets last season and then look at these acquisitions, look at these roster moves, and think that they did not get better. You could quibble maybe with how much better they got. If you want to say, well, Valanciunas might not move the needle that much, Brown and Hardaway are question marks, whatever. The composite of the moves, they got better, at least to some extent.
Well, they're a deeper team now.
Yes,
I think that's inarguable. They turned
even if they're the same as last year and they win 50 games again, they can win 50 games by playing Jokic fewer minutes, by playing Murray fewer minutes,
right,
and at least be in a better scenario, a better kind of mental, physical state going into the playoffs. And that speaks for a ton after we just watched the Pacers and the Thunder play in the NBA Finals. So
if you decided to sit Nikola Jokic for a game, you've got a starting center there.
Yeah. I'll say this. So Valanciunas, I'm excited to see him with Jamal Murray. If they want to stagger Murray with that second unit, like Valanciunas is basically a brick wall of a screen. Like he's just like a great kind of sturdy centerpiece for Jamal to play with and kind of snake around like he likes to. Like there's some fun stuff that they can do playing off of Valanciunas and Murray. I think that'll be fun. I think that's a really good fit. We've talked about sort of the tempo concept with the second unit, and I think having him as your backup center sort of addresses that and slows things down pretty significantly. Not that, in theory, I guess Dario Saric was going to be able to do that too last year, but the problem was that Russell Westbrook was the opposite of that, and they were very clearly not a fit from the beginning. So, whether you have Pickett playing some minutes with Valanciunas or Murray staggering or Cam Johnson kind of as your first option that you can work with in certain bench lineups, I just kind of think they have a very good identity and a half-court operation that they can start with now when Jokic is on the bench.
More than one move, more than one adjustment that can be made in a series if you need to or whatever that might be. All right, couple questions for you. How long has Ben Tenzer been mapping this out? And how long was John Wallace a part of this? He only got introduced essentially a week before this happened. It seems like a lot of moves that sort of needed to be mapped out to make sense. And I don't know if you put that together in a day.
Well, first of all, like they had other options. They had other things that they were ready to try to do with the flexibility created by the Porter trade. So it wasn't...
That was the big and first domino that they knew they wanted to make happen.
Right, yeah. But I just want to say, like, it wasn't instantaneous that, okay, we're getting Valanciunas now. They did go after Gershon Yabusele in free agency.
Would have been nice.
They did look at Horford. Like, they had their options open. They tried to go a few different ways. Ultimately, the Valanciunas thing works so well because it kind of killed two birds with one stone, and you get off of a bad contract that just wasn't going to be productive at the end of your bench, and you turn it into, like, arguably the best backup center Jokic has had on paper. With the Porter trade, obviously, contrary to every ounce of messaging that the Nuggets have signaled for the entirety of this offseason, right?
Yes.
Josh Kroenke says from the very beginning, most of our answers are internal.
In a way, they were.
Yeah. He kind of tips his hand as to internal development of the young guys being a critical aspect of this. I asked Ben Tenzer and John Wallace straight up after the draft last week, do you foresee the upcoming moves being more free agency oriented or trade oriented? And Tenzer said probably free agency oriented. So,
well, that was wrong.
I think that they've been looking at trades all of this time and weren't necessarily sure if something was going to happen. That's basically what I can surmise, I think, from the situation.
They didn't know whether or not the Nets were going to take Porter back.
Here's the thing. Ben Tenzer, at a certain point as interim GM, basically started calling every team in the NBA.
Like, well, he should.
Like, he was putting in work toward the end of that sort of interim tenure, and he was gauging things. He was asking about Kevin Durant. He was just kind of seeing what the market was like. So he had coals in the fire for potential trades, for any number of moves, just to be as prepared as possible. And then he gets the job. They get Wallace in there. These guys are friends. And I think that there was a sense that they might be able to get this done, but not a certainty of it. And basically they kept things close to the chest until they felt confident that it was going to happen, which was pretty much at the last second. Like, we didn't really see any of this reach. I mean, not just me, but the national
nobody was
readers of tea leaves. Like, there are people in the media, frankly, way better informed than me around the league who were not kind of forecasting a Porter trade necessarily leading up to it either. And so they did a very good job of kind of not setting an expectation almost that something was going to happen and then finding a way to get it done with Brooklyn. I think that Cam Johnson was someone they had looked at for a long time. He's kind of been a trade machine staple of Nuggets fans for multiple years, I would say, just because,
I think of a lot of fans. I think he's just a guy that's been out there.
Yeah, exactly. He's a guy who's been on a finals team. He gets sent to purgatory in the Kevin Durant trade, and like Mikal Bridges, who ends up going back to a contender, it was always, this is a good player. Where can he end up where he can impact winning as a fourth option or something like that again?
By the way, if you want to have fun, go back and look at the Kevin Durant trade and see what all those assets turned into.
I know.
It's unbelievable. I know. So it's essentially like 8 first-round picks, Michael Porter Jr. Actually, I think 9 first-round picks. Yeah. Michael Porter Jr. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
I can't believe Brooklyn used all 5 of those picks in the draft.
Unbelievable.
But I digress.
I don't know why they did that.
That was crazy. So, I think they had Cam Johnson circled. Obviously, he checks multiple boxes, one being that he can slide into Porter's place in the starting lineup, in theory, without it being a huge knock on your combination of size and shooting, right? Like that is the selling point for Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson, both volume-wise, efficiency-wise, production-wise, is pretty parallel to him, and he's 2 inches shorter. Like he is an excellent movement shooter at 6'8". His release point isn't quite as high as Porter's. His trigger is a little faster than Porter's, so you kind of have the pros and cons of that. He can extend the defense a little deeper. He's comfortable taking them further out beyond the line. They can do a lot of stuff, kind of bringing him off of pin downs, off of curls, off of, flares, all kinds of stuff. And he's going to be a pretty natural fit with Jokic. He can do some DHO stuff there. So, like, he does a lot of the same stuff that Porter does. There are obviously differences in them as players. The contract difference is a massive element to this. The depth thing is an undeniable aspect of it where, like, I talked about this. I wrote this during the season when the Nuggets looked at Porter trades, former general manager Calvin Booth. It wasn't like, man, we hate Porter, we got to get him off of this roster ASAP. They've always appreciated kind of the work ethic, the resiliency of Porter in terms of being able to overcome the physical obstacles that he's constantly dealing with. But they understood from the beginning that if they wanted to get deeper or if they wanted to add more star power next to Jokic, Porter was the guy who's going to make the most sense in a trade. And it was a matter of whether they could get two to tango the whole time. And in the regular season, the Cronkies did not allow Calvin Booth to ultimately make any moves. I believe he talked with Atlanta about some stuff. Obviously, it's been out there that he was interested in Zach LaVine. Nothing ever happened. This is the same thing where it's not that they hate Michael Porter Jr. or don't think that he is viable anymore in the starting lineup. We just saw the starting lineup excel against the Thunder in that playoff series, even when Porter's individual production wasn't that great. So his impact, his synergy with that group is valuable. And the Nuggets knew that. But if you could turn him into someone cheaper who hopefully brings similar value, maybe better value, I'm sure people's mileage varies on who's the better player.
Feels like about the same to me.
Yeah.
There's things that Johnson does well that Porter doesn't. Things
Yeah.
that Porter does well that Johnson doesn't.
Yeah. So if you do that and allow yourself to add the depth, then that's what makes this so effective. Like, that is the key at the end of the day. And ultimately what you get from Porter and the 2032 first, two good assets, is new starting small forward who's also a great volume three-point shooter, backup center, and getting off of another contract, the Sarge contract. So you can look at it as one player in Porter for two rotation players, or you can look at it as two assets for three boxes checked from a roster building standpoint. Either way, that is productive. That is probably as well as they could have done with Porter and the contract that he is at. So,
and they're in a better cap situation now.
Their cap sheet is so much healthier now.
Yeah.
Instead of three of these guys up north of 35 and soon to be 40 million, you have the drop off next season from Murray down to Aaron Gordon at 22.8, Cam Johnson at 21.1, and then Valanciunas at 10.
By the way, that Gordon contract, after some of the numbers getting thrown around, it just keeps getting better.
Yep. And again, he will have that $9 million raise the year after this one.
But even with that, still fantastic.
Yeah, no doubt. This sets you up to be able to negotiate a little bit more and feel comfortable with whatever number you settle on with Christian Braun for a contract extension, as opposed to him being a fifth guy to potentially make upwards of $30 million or more than $30 million if you had still had the...
Do you think he's going to get more than $30 million a year?
I don't know. It's fascinating. There's only going to be a 7% cap increase apparently next year instead of the 10% projected one.
Everybody was assuming 10%.
Which is going to have an impact on some of these 2022 draft pick guys who are in that extension eligible range. But I read an article from Spotrac, kind of just doing early projections on some of the contracts for everyone in that first round, and there were 5 players projected at $30 million a year for their second contracts, and it was Paolo, Chet, Jalen Williams, Christian Brown, and Walker Kessler. Very interesting. And then we saw Jabari Smith get $24 million a year, I think, last week. So that's kind of an interesting market setter.
That's kind of where I would think Brown would be, is somewhere around 24 to 28. Like that just seems, but who knows?
Maybe so. It's going to be an interesting sort of negotiation. I think that the Nuggets want to get something done there.
I bet you Brown does too.
Yeah, clearly he loves playing with Jokic. Yeah. He, the fan base freaking loves Christian Brown. So, and he's been incredibly valuable for them. Have
you seen the photos recently on social
just
media?
Of his buzz cut? Or
no, well, the buzz cut, and he's also looking cut.
Oh, I see. He already was, but
he's looking like a man now.
Okay.
Not so much like a boy, like a man.
Okay.
I'm just saying.
Glad that you're studying that.
Hey, Ron, have you seen these photos?
Yeah, he's got a little beard going. I saw some comparisons to Zach LaVine. You got to dig through the comments, but
okay,
they were there.
Yeah, I don't think anyone is questioning Christian Brown's fitness level or athleticism. I mean, he's been able to play a ton of games. He's
going to be even bigger and better.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see. He's kind of the fourth core guy now.
Yes. You could even argue the third. Actually,
yeah, I don't know.
It's
probably Gordon.
It's probably Gordon.
Yeah.
But he's inching in that direction.
Yeah, he is, no doubt. Anyway, so the cap sheet is way healthier. It makes these extension talks a little easier to kind of see and forecast a future of cap sheets in the years beyond this one, both with Brown and Peyton Watson. And look, part of this, Josh Kroenke probably deserves some credit here because I reported during the regular season when they fired Malone and Booth, I think other outlets reported this as well, that ownership did not want to trade Porter in the season, that they shut down those talks. Josh Kroenke kind of adamantly denied the idea that he would shut down the possibility of ever trading Michael Porter Jr. or someone else.
Mizzou made
if it would
Michael
make the
Porter
team
Jr.
better, yes. And that because of that college connection, he would put a ban on trading him ever. He did not specifically deny that he and ownership, that he and his dad might have poo-pooed trade possibilities during last season. Just worth pointing out. He went on to say that he wants to feel stable about the front office situation, about the future of the team, the cohesion between front office and coach before green-lighting that kind of a move. And I think that is accurate. They reached a point where they had pulled the extension for Calvin Booth off the table. I don't think they wanted to give him the autonomy anymore to make that type of a drastic move when he was sort of in an increasingly tenuous situation as the general manager. And the actions ended up backing up the words because we reached a point where they hired new people and They found a trade that they liked with Porter, and it doesn't happen without the Kroenkes green-lighting it. So
okay, Kroenke's got their love letter. We can move on.
I think it's worth noting because of the willingness to trade Porter from ownership was such a talking point throughout the regular season. And I think the stability that they have with a new coach and a new front office is a huge part of why they were willing to do this now. And it's not all love letter for the Kroenkes. By the way, up until these hires, a lot of people were asking me, what the hell are the Kroenkes doing? Like, what is going on in Denver?
I was asking.
Agents, there were people within the Nuggets organization that were just kind of confused by what was going on with the search process. Like, there was a lot of skepticism of them, and I think that they handled the optics of that search absolutely terribly. And with the dismissal of Tommy Balcetis, for instance, if you were going to get rid of him, if you were not going to renew him, why not just fire him along with Calvin Booth in the first place? Why, once you keep him in the front office through the end of the playoff run, and for another month after that into the offseason, what does that signal other than we still want you here for your next contract? And then
by the way, you know maybe some of our offseason plans because you're hanging around and perhaps have intel that other people could use.
Sure, yeah. And then to get rid of him at the tail end of the search, to me, that's a horrible way to treat someone who was in your organization and a good employee for more than a decade, was part of the front office that drafted Jokic. Like I don't know, whatever they think of the performance of Tommy Balcetis, and if he was inadequate or if they just wanted a fresh start, anything like that, I think they handled that terribly. So I'm just going to get my Kroenke criticism out of the way since you're accusing me of
All right. Okay. But at the end of the day, what do the Kroenkes do? They hire good, young executives. They've been doing that for a while. Yep. They've been pretty good at that. Some might say they whiffed on Calvin Booth, but he's also the guy that brought in Bruce Brown and traded for KCP, and they won a championship with him.
Yeah.
So hard to say that was a total whiff.
Yeah. Booth has been catching a lot of strays online the last few days with these moves. I get it, but also only one general manager in Denver Nuggets history has won an NBA championship. I think,
and he had a part in that.
Yeah,
right? It's not all Connolly.
His 22 off season was incredible. They don't win it without the KCP edition, without the Bruce Brown edition, and also they don't get Bruce Brown back on a veteran minimum contract this season without having acquired him in the first place.
Without the previous relationship.
Yeah.
Yes.
So some of the
I think the criticism leveled at him that still remains is just he fell in love with his own drafting ability.
Sure.
And needed to be a little bit more open-minded. That's fine. We don't know what he would have done this offseason. Maybe he would have tried to do the same stuff. We have no idea.
No, there's no telling. I clearly made some mistakes, made some bad moves. The Sarge move was terrible. He managed the relationship. Yeah, Zeke Nnaji. That goes back to...
Now, talk about a test for our new GM duo.
Yeah, exactly.
If you could somehow get rid of
somehow
Zeke
flip him, that would be the dessert on this offseason, I guess. Yeah.
So, all right, let's do this before we move on to a few other topics. Nuggets rotation. I'm going to map it out. You tell me what you think.
I've been trying to. It's kind of difficult.
It's really difficult. Yeah. It's really difficult. So I've got starting five. I think this one's pretty obvious. Jokic, Gordon, Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, Jamal Murray.
Correct.
Okay. So, Jokic backup, Val. Backup 4, is that Deron Holmes?
I think so, yeah.
Which, by the way, we haven't even talked about. They're about to add Deron Holmes to these other things that they're adding to the roster.
Yeah, and look, the benefits of the moves that they have made are ultimately that there's not quite so much pressure on these young guys to be like, you are the only answer on this bench.
Right.
Like that's the kind of thing that's going to weigh on someone like Julian Strawther, who was picked 29th in the draft, or Jalen Pickett, who was picked 32nd in the draft, right?
Yeah.
Like this.
Duran Holmes was 23, I think.
Sure, it's going to be harder to earn minutes. He was 22. Yeah, sure, it's going to be harder to earn minutes, but like, I think that this is probably a better situation for some of these guys, and I think the Nuggets are still very much interested in developing them and giving them a chance to kind of maximize the return on investment for those picks. But there's just not as much pressure on them, and Holmes is a huge part of that. Now it's not like you are the backup center and also power forward, and you just missed your first year in the NBA because of a torn Achilles, and now here you go. We're really riding on you suddenly being really good and having great upside as a non-lottery pick this year. You know, like
he'll be appearing at Rookie League, I believe.
Correct. Summer League
behind Duran Holmes, Zeke Nnaji.
Yeah.
For now.
I mean, I think he has to be regarded as your third string, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then Holmes also kind of fits into a third string center spot because they've talked about wanting to be able to use him at both positions. You can play some different styles if he's at the 5. Yep. Good situation. Yeah.
Okay. Behind Johnson, is that Watson, right?
Yeah, I think so. You could also, like, this is why it's difficult to map this out. You could play him at the 4.
Correct.
They've done that a lot before. I think Peyton Watson has very clearly telegraphed that he prefers to play the 3 and prefers to work off of the wing rather than the dunker spot, some of that stuff. Look, you're going to have to put up with being put in positions that you don't love sometimes. That's just part of it. But I think this should afford him some more opportunities to be a true wing and play small forward.
Behind him, Strawther as your, or I guess you could put Hunter Tyson there.
I would almost even, I would almost consider like Bruce Brown as the next 3 because he's a hard to categorize. He can play some point guard. You can put him at the wing, and have a more pure point guard on the floor with him. Like you have stuff you can do there.
Back up 2. It's Brown or Strawther.
Well, Brown's a starter. Oh, I'm sorry, Bruce Brown.
Yes.
I mean, Hardaway's in the mix somewhere in here as well.
Right. And I have Hardaway there as well. It's basically it's a Brown, Hardaway, Strawther.
Yeah, it's this huge swirl of those 3 guys can play the 2 or the 3. Yeah. And Bruce could play some 1 as well.
Right. And that's where the 1 is Pickup Brown.
Pickett
Brown.
It's going to take that's correct. It's going to take me some getting used to having 2 Browns on the roster again, by the way.
Brown and Brown, the lawyers are back.
Here we go again.
The law firm. That just going through that exercise shows you the crazy options that they have now, where they could do a lot of different interesting things with their backups, where, like you said, Watson may be at the 4, Strawther may be at the 3, Brown may be at the 3. There's just all these different things that they can do, and that's without even considering that they can even stagger some of their starters with these guys and do weird and different things and try out different combinations. It just seems like as long as Adelman is willing to tinker, he can have a lot of fun over the first 2 months just seeing what works.
No doubt. And I think he will be. I mean, like, he made a pretty specific point during the Oklahoma City series to basically talk about publicly that it's not just sheerly the number of guys in the rotation for OKC, but it's the number of different styles that they're allowed to play and sort of the malleability of their lineups. So, like, clearly that's something that he envied. And now he has a chance. I still wouldn't say this roster is as good as Oklahoma City's, but like
no,
they were already right there and they got better. And he can do some of that stuff now where he can play really wing heavy lineups, or he can play 2 bigs with Holmes at the 4 and Valanciunas or Jokic at the 5.
Holmes at the 5.
Holmes at the 5 out. Like there's a lot he can do there. I think that he's the right coach to kind of try out some of that stuff. And it's funny, like going back to that Oklahoma City series, I wasn't courtside in my seats at Paycom Center, unfortunately, but those who were documented a pretty funny moment either in game 1 or game 2 of the series where he was out kind of near midcourt as Oklahoma City sent a couple of guys to the scorer's table to check in, and he turned to the media at the scorer's table and was like, my God, they have a lot of effing guys.
Well, now he does too.
Yeah.
I think you could easily put together a 10-man rotation out of that. I said at the very least a really good 8-man rotation, like a very solid 8-man rotation.
Yeah.
Which when you get to the playoffs is kind of what it turns into.
Mm-hmm.
Before we move on, one last thing. Aaron has a list of guys that are still out there that could be the 15th addition to the roster. Aaron, do you have anybody that piques your interest?
Depends on the position you want.
I'm curious about another big.
You like bigs.
It's got to be Boucher.
Chris Boucher
That's
is number
right.
1 on this list.
I like Chris Boucher, by the way. If you could add him, that's yet another guy who can play 2 or 3 different positions and do some fun things.
They can pay him a little bit, too. Like, they can use a portion of the mid-level up until the first apron, so...
So they got a chance to get
definitely
him.
a guy worth targeting. I mean, the fact that he hasn't signed anywhere yet tells you, like, I don't know, he's there for the taking. Why not get him to a new contender? Toronto's, not going anywhere.
They fired Masai Ujiri, by the way, after the draft.
Yeah, that was pretty strange.
Very strange.
Yeah.
Who else we got?
Nuggets title winner, Thomas Bryant.
He actually had a couple moments with Indiana.
Game 6 of the conference finals.
Where he was like draining corner threes.
I know. Yeah.
It was,
yeah.
I mean.
Couple big shots in game 1, the game where they ended up coming back and winning on the Halliburton shot. Yeah.
Right. I mean, if he's your 15th guy, you could do worse.
Yeah.
No doubt about that.
Definitely. Yeah.
Marvin Bagley,
No.
the third.
I don't hate it.
No. I mean, he's, as a 15th guy, yeah, fine.
I mean, he's why not as a minimum guy who
Yeah.
you could throw out there at some point?
Sure.
I don't think they should pay him more than the minimum. But
No.
Yeah.
No. What else?
Mo Wagner.
Okay.
Yeah. Is he actually going anywhere?
I would be surprised.
Yeah. I would
I believe
expect
they
him to stay in
declined his
Orlando.
option.
Huh. I mean, maybe that's just to get him for cheaper.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly what his contract situation was.
They got his bro. I think
Yeah.
they probably want to hold on. No.
Yeah.
Jackson Hayes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're kind of getting to the end here.
We are.
Checkered passed off the court as well.
Yeah.
Turns pretty sour. Bismack Biyombo, Alex
No.
Len.
No.
Those are the names that start to come up on the list.
Hey, where's Bol, by the way? Is he?
He was with the
He's-
Suns.
I know, but didn't didn't he have a team option or something and they let him go, or
I'm
maybe
not
it was
sure.
just because
He's available. He's also on a list.
You want to bring Bol into the situation?
I don't know. He's huge.
He is huge. He actually played like real minutes for the Suns last year.
Yeah.
That just shows you how.
Yeah, I
desperate
know.
they
I was
were.
going to say that's probably a commentary on the Suns. So
All right. What about guards
You like guards,
or wings? Guard wings.
wings and shooters.
Yeah.
Doug McDermott.
Oh, Dougie. I don't think they're going to get him for the mid-level.
why not?
I think
mean-
somebody would pay him more than that. No.
Eh,
No.
I don't know.
I mean, if you could get him for the mid-level, that's not a bad addition.
I mean, I guess if Luke Kennard can make $11 million or whatever it was,
I like Luke Kennard. You're taking shots at Luke Kennard?
he's a great shooter, but that's kind of all he does.
Yes. Which is same with Doug.
Yeah.
Um,
Doug's worse than Luke Kennard.
Yes. Yeah, probably. That's probably true.
I don't know. To me, he's a minimum or maybe a little bit of the taxpayer mid-level.
I wouldn't
type
mind
of-
adding him to the mix, although I kind of feel like they kind of have those guys already. Like between
Here's the
Strother.
thing, though. Like, No, you're right. But like, didn't the Pacers just kind of prove that it doesn't hurt to have
a ton of shooting,
more shooters, just like more guards who you can bring in and might get hot any night? Like,
fair. Yeah. That's fair. What else?
Alec Burks.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a former CU guy.
This is a thing. Like most of the market is dried up at this point.
Can I interest you in Seth Curry?
You could interest me in
Yeah,
Seth Curry.
yeah, probably.
I would take
Another
Seth.
vet.
Yeah.
Landry Shamet?
No. No. I'm sorry. No.
He and Aaron Gordon can make peace.
These are the kind of the names you're getting into. Jay Crowder.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, I had no
No idea.
Still.
These are the names available. So that's what you're left with.
I think of all those guys, Boucher is the one that I like the most. I think that's
Clearly, yeah.
If they could get him, great. Doug McDermott is that's fun.
Yeah. Satisfy Vinny.
Yeah, that's
Our
right.
friend Vinny at the Gazette.
Creighton grad.
Devastated with Trey Alexander not returning.
That was a little surprising.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of teams operate that way. They just kind of like to reset their two-way spots. Then again...
But he was great in the G League.
Yeah, I know. It is interesting. Then again, they're probably going to re-sign Spencer Jones here. So,
Yeah, of the two, I think I'd rather have the Creighton guy.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
Don't think so. I mean, I feel like we've covered most of the elements to this. I mean, do you have any doubt as to the Cam Johnson fit or kind of the replacement of Porter with him?
You could make an argument that's a slight downgrade.
Mm-hmm.
You could make that argument because Porter, I think, probably is a better contested shot maker
Fair.
than Cam Johnson is. But at the same time, like Cam Johnson can actually dribble the basketball and do things and pass stuff that Michael Porter Jr. never really developed it in a way that you would have liked.
It's another high IQ guy.
Yeah.
He can make reads. He can be a connector.
Yeah,
Some of that
smart
stuff.
Tar Heel, a Tar Heel basketball player.
Yeah.
Knows what he's doing. So I think it's going to fit well. I like Cam Johnson. I think he's a really good player. I think the Suns made a huge mistake when they included him on that deal for Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
It just seemed like a dumb thing to do in the time. So I think a good job by them. I'm surprised the Nets couldn't get more for him, to be honest.
I am a little bit too. Yeah. I just would have thought, I mean, like, I don't know. Porter, part of this is that the closer Porter gets to the end of his contract, the more palatable he is and the more feasible it was to trade him. So, like, if you want to say, oh, why didn't Calvin Booth do this a year ago? By the way, like, well, he had 3 years left on the contract. Now he has 2. That becomes easier. If they had kept him, it would have been even easier, and maybe they could have gotten something more as an expiring next year. So, like, so that's part of it. But yeah, I do kind of think they could have gotten more. Defensively, I'm not going to pretend to be an expert on Cam Johnson's defense, but
I think he's fine.
He's considered at least a marginal upgrade over Porter, I think. Part of, like, Porter, his biggest flaw is that he's probably one of the worst off-ball defenders in the NBA. Like, he falls asleep, gets lost, gets beat by back cuts, is really slow on rotations all the time. And, like, that is a major aspect with him in terms of just, like, frustrating elements as a player that you'd like to think Cam Johnson is going to provide a bit more stability there and probably handle some switches better as well.
Not as good of a rebounder as Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. You give up some rebounding. Mm-hmm.
Does it concern you that Cam Johnson in 21-22 played 66 games and has not reached 60 games since?
That's the big question mark with him.
Michael Porter Jr. is a virtual Iron Man.
It's
he
funny,
has
right?
been the last 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Which is kind of odd because nobody saw that coming. And yeah, if you're looking at Cam Johnson, there is concerns about him being able to play 82 games. I would also say this, part of what we just discussed, part of the reason why these trades are so great is that they now have much more depth and optionality, which means that if Cam Johnson does miss games, it's not nearly as damaging as had Michael Porter Jr. in the previous iteration miss games.
They're suddenly way better equipped to handle having injury-prone players on their roster. And that is important because, once Gordon was hurt going into Game 7 on top of Porter, it was kind of over.
Right.
Like, it was just going to be
and now they have a fighting chance.
A steep uphill battle.
They have a fighting chance with all these other guys.
Yeah. But no, I do think that's a concern. It's kind of like funny the perception around this stuff because Porter has a medical record that poses a more existential threat to his career, but Cam Johnson has been the concretely less available player for the last few years now. So kind of an interesting trade-off there, and which would you rather have, I guess.
Also, he was playing for a tanking team. So take that into account.
Very fair. Very fair. Porter gets to reunite with Jordy Fernandez. So
good for him.
Yeah. It's a little bleak other than that for him. But
he gets to jack up a lot more shots, too.
I'm excited to watch him with the Nets, honestly. Like it is a bummer for him because like he does not take losing very well and they're just not going to be good. But like
him and Cam Thomas together, huh?
But like, yeah, I'm excited to see him experiment and like for it to be okay for him to make some mistakes and maybe average 22 a game or something.
Well, the good news is the Nets got the Chinese Jokic, right? So
what?
Didn't they get the Chinese?
No, he's Portland.
Oh, that's right. Portland got the. Yeah, how could I forget?
Yeah, there are too many Jokic like nicknames for other centers who aren't going to be Jokic, by the way. It's getting excessive.
None of them are going to be.
I've peddled the baby Jokic thing with Şengün.
No.
But it's getting excessive. There's the college Jokic, there's baby Jokic, there's Chinese Jokic suddenly. Yeah. Like, I'm just waiting for the next one.
Do we think that we see an outpouring of scoring from Michael Porter Jr. upon his exit, akin to Jeremy Grant after he left?
I hope so.
I would think so.
Michael Porter Jr. over under 32 points per game.
Oh, my God.
I think he will be over 20. I think that'll happen for sure. Okay. A lot of skepticism about the Tenzer-Wallace era, as I mentioned not that long ago. Have you been won over? Do you now see how this can work for the Nuggets? Or is there still some skepticism? They have yet to be really tested on here's a really difficult decision that we need to make, and somebody's got to make the last call.
I mean, trading Porter is not something that you do without a heavy heart.
But it's your first moves, Now the deeper you get into it, you're now dealing with moves that you've made that you now have to like change course on and think decisions that you have been a part of and led that you have to either reverse course on or do something with. I think that gets a little different.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, like, skepticism is always healthy. I think there should be plenty of it. And there certainly was as they got hired. I mean, they just earned a ton of goodwill with the fans. So it's going to be interesting to see how that ages because Calvin Booth early on earned a ton of goodwill with the fans, and then it kind of eroded over the rest of his tenure from there.
KOC, tip of the cap.
Yeah. No, the infamous interview. That's true. Ben Tenzer interview incoming. That we will win 5 championships in the next decade.
There you go. Yes. Okay. All right. So we are going to now. I mean, most of the offseason stuff is done. We just went through the list of free agents. None of those guys are probably swinging a championship run at this point, unless there's some big trades to be had, and who knows? Maybe Giannis doesn't like what's going on in Milwaukee.
Okay.
I think we kind of know what teams are going to be next year at this point, right? Like we have a decent sense of it. So I want to rank contenders. I asked both of you to have
Love ranking stuff.
Oh, who doesn't?
Who doesn't? It's
Love ranking
America's
stuff.
pastime.
So, Bennett, I'm going to let you go first.
Are we starting like at 10? Are we starting at 1?
I think you started.
1?
What do you think, AR?
I mean, I guess 1 is kind of obvious. So it's not like there's
Right.
that much of a
Right.
good suspenseful buildup to be created by starting at 10. OKC's number 1 still.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Aaron, you got some thoughts?
I mean, I think that's probably the consensus number 1, yeah?
Yes.
Unless Matt has a curveball.
They just won the title, and they're bringing everybody back.
Yeah. And it's a lot of young guys who clearly have room to get better.
Yes. Like, for example, Chet, not all that good in the NBA Finals.
No, he was not. And like there's a lot of room for him in terms of like on-ball creation, stuff like that, where like his face-up game is just going to keep getting more and more polished, I think, as he ages. So,
The only cons I had for them were they won 2 Game 7s on the backs of significant injuries, but that's how teams generally win titles.
yeah.
Injury luck throughout the run.
Yeah,
For sure they did.
They got lucky. Yet another asterisk title. As I've seen a few different people, you could put an asterisk on every single title that's occurred in, I don't know, the last 30 years. Maybe the Jordan Bulls, no asterisks, but
Went back and forth a lot on the next 3 spots.
okay. I think I know who I got as my number 2.
There's a chance we disagree. I settled on Cleveland.
Yeah, we disagree.
I think you have to factor in the context that they are playing around. And it was just difficult for me to go with. I don't know that they're the second best team in the NBA necessarily, but I feel pretty strongly, even after they kind of got punked in the second round this year, that they
Yet again
should be the heavy favorites to win the East.
They've been punked twice, 2 years in a row in the playoffs.
No, they played a Boston juggernaut last year. That does not qualify as getting punked.
How many games they win?
The Nuggets got punked by the Timberwolves.
How many games they win in that series?
I don't even remember. It was either a sweep or a 5-gamer. But like,
Pretty sure it was a 5-game.
Okay, that's fine. I don't care. That Boston team was incredible, and Cleveland was never expected to beat them.
Barely beat an Orlando team that had no offense.
Oh, I don't know why we're talking about the Cavs team 2 years ago being a relevant factor in the 25-26 Cavs.
I'm a skeptic. That's all.
I think that's fair. The East is so bad, man. Like, it's so bad. And it's hard. Like, I understand that it was hard to see anyone other than Boston beating them in this last year. It's really hard to see anyone having like a Pacers type of emergence, I think, next year. I don't trust anyone else in the conference right now with the injuries, with the state of things. And so to me, a 64-win team that seems content to mostly run it back, I feel comfortable that they're going to be in the NBA Finals.
They just lost Ty Jerome, too, by the way.
And they went and got Lonzo Ball in a pretty
I do like Lonzo.
effective trade. Like
I like Lonzo, and I like how he fits for them. I will say.
Yeah. Like, I think that was kind of an underrated offseason move. They got Aaron's guy, Larry Nance Jr. Like, they're still going to be really good. They have a great starting 5. I don't think they should trade for LeBron.
No, they should not.
Like let this thing ride out. They're my number 2. Should I keep going, or do you guys want to say your number 2?
No, keep going.
I've got Houston number 3.
Okay.
And Denver number 4. 2 to 4 could have gone any number of ways, but ultimately with Houston and Denver, the team that won more games was the higher seed already, and then made the clearly biggest tangible improvement on top of that. It was hard for me to argue the Nuggets over them, although I think you probably could. So yeah, give me the ridiculously deep Kevin Durant Rockets that might also trade for Giannis in September. So like they can easily put together a great package for Giannis and then have a starting lineup of like Van Vliet, Amen Thompson, Durant, Giannis, and Steven Adams or something next year. That would be crazy. Yeah. Like that would maybe push them to number 1 if they did that. So
I don't think that's happening though.
We'll see. Things are pretty shaky over in Milwaukee right now.
It's not looking great. There's no doubt about that. Okay. 5.
I have. This is where I was like, there's a pretty clear drop off, by the way. I went with Minnesota, even though I think they might have gotten worse.
They lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker.
Yeah.
And that's a blow.
Yeah.
They're going to be
They're stuck relying more on Mike Conley.
Exactly. They're going to have to rely more on Mike Conley, which seems like a problem.
Ultimately, I gave them some benefit of the doubt because they've been to the conference finals twice in a row. They kept Naz Reid. They kept Julius Randle.
Still got Ant.
They've still got Ant. They've still got a pretty good perimeter defense infrastructure with Ant and McDaniels. I think Ant is on an upward trajectory still. He has a chance to be the best player in the NBA at some point in the next 3 to 4 years to be grappling with Wembanyama for that spot.
All right, let's get through your list. Let's go.
Sorry. Anyway, I didn't feel confident about that one, but I went with them at 5. 6, also didn't feel confident about it, but the Lakers.
Okay, keep going. We can get through this.
I no longer think that the teams remaining can really win the championship.
There's one out there I can't believe you haven't said yet. Keep going.
Is it the Knicks?
Yes.
I don't think they can win either.
I can't believe they're not
how do you
in your top 5.
How do you not have them in your top 5?
Knicks 7.
Okay.
I almost put the Magic over them.
Okay. Keep going.
I don't know. I just don't think they can win a championship with Brunson as their best player. And I don't maybe they can win the East with as bad as it is this year, but yeah, 7 is fine for me.
I mean, the Pacers almost won an NBA Finals with Halliburton as their best player.
Halliburton's a better player than Brunson.
Okay. All right. Keep going.
I have not wavered in this.
Keep
Halliburton,
going.
second team All-NBA, Brunson, third team All-NBA.
Keep going.
I don't know why this is so crazy to you guys.
That's nuts, but let's go.
I was at 7. 8, I went Clippers.
Okay. You know that James Harden still plays them, right?
I don't think anyone else at this point is like a true championship contender.
I wanted to make sure you understood that.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Right. 9th, I went. See, I just hate all. I don't like any of these teams.
Just keep going. I don't quit. We need to get through your list.
Maybe I'll slow down a little bit. In fact, 9th, I went Orlando.
Okay.
And 10th, I went back and forth a little bit. I landed on the Warriors just because the Steph Jimmy thing in a small sample size worked really well. We didn't get to see how that Minnesota series would have shaken out with a healthy Curry. And I don't know. I'm just like, let's give that thing a full season. They haven't really done anything with their offseason, which is a little concerning, but it seems like they're going to get Horford at least. Like, that's a valuable role player.
What is he, like 50?
Maybe they can still turn Kuminga into something. Does not seem like his value is particularly great, but
that's got to be sobering for our guy Kuminga.
Yeah. Slap in the face. But I didn't really like anyone after 4, frankly. But really after 5.
Okay, so. I got my rankings.
All right, go for it.
1, OKC. Yeah. We agree. 2, Denver.
Wow. Okay.
It's Denver. They now have the best roster to beat OKC, in my opinion. They have optionality. They've got the best player if they face each other. They have a starting five that's as good as OKC's starting five, if not better. I like where they're at. 3, Houston. Great moves. Mm-hmm. I like what they did. I think it's solid. I think they've got a lot of... I don't know why they signed Capella. Okay, fine.
Well, back to my earlier point, interesting that they suddenly have a surplus of centers.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, for the Giannis trade, that isn't going to happen. 4, New York, the Knicks. I'm sorry.
4?
Yes, they're the best East team. That's the team that's coming out of the East next year. I'm telling you right now, that's going to happen.
Unbelievable.
It's going to happen. They made the East Conference Finals last year, and they just added a couple of guys. I like Jordan Clarkson coming off the bench.
I like their moves, and
I like Yabusele. I think that's a great addition.
I like their moves. I like their increased depth. I think the problem is still up top with them.
And by the way, Mike Brown's a pretty good coach.
Yeah.
He'll actually play guys.
My note for pros on the Knicks says Mike Brown is a good coach.
He won in Sacramento. You know who also won in Sacramento? Mike Malone. That guy won an NBA title. Good coach.
I just don't trust the Brunson Cat thing, the defensive issues posed by them together.
They just got to get through the East.
There wasn't enough of a pick and roll synergy with them really last year either. Like,
they've got another year to play together. They'll get better.
Okay.
Number 5.
That's what they said about Giannis and Dame.
Number 5, Cleveland.
Okay. I think that's crazy to have New York over Cleveland.
Oh, yeah. I'm taking New York over Cleveland every time. I haven't seen it from them in the playoffs. What I've seen from them in the playoffs, they turtle. That's what they've done. That's all I've seen from them.
To Matt's point, my note for cons on Cavs, they sucked in the playoffs.
I mean, New York has lost a Game 7 at home to Indiana, and then
That's a really good Indiana team. I think in retrospect, not that bad to lose to them.
I mean, you were just using derogatory terms about Tyrese Halliburton 2 minutes ago. So
I love the Pacers. I fell in love with that team, and I'm not. That was not a shot that was taken at him. It was more, hey, these two are on the same level, Halliburton and Brunson, and they were maybe torn Achilles away from winning the finals. So, all right, number 6, Minnesota. They got Ant. He's going to get better. Yes, they lost Nickeil Alexander-Walker, but they still got guys. And if Ant takes another step, he's got a 3-point shot. Now it's just, can he be a little bit smarter with the basketball, make a few better decisions, and maybe they make another move, they bring another guy in. I like them. 7. I can't believe you didn't bring up this team. The Atlanta frickin' Hawks.
7.
Yes, they're in the East. I love what the Atlanta Hawks have done. Love it.
I really like them too. I'm high on the Hawks.
They basically have the perfect team to put around Trey. Perfect.
Yeah.
They're going to be.
Their defense is going to be amazing.
They're going to be a great defensive team. Yeah. They're going to have a ton of depth. Some of those guys are going to get better. I can't believe you didn't have them in the top 10.
I thought about them at 10. I couldn't go higher than like them in Orlando and frankly New York I kind of see similarly.
Okay.
And I was like, I guess I should have at least 2 of these teams in.
Number 8.
Whatever.
Number 8. The Lakers.
Okay.
They got Luka.
Yeah. That's kind of my reasoning. To be clear, I think that roster is deeply flawed. I'm pretty skeptical the Ayton thing is going to work.
Yes.
And I don't ultimately think they'll be good enough. But I
think losing Finney-Smith is a pretty big loss for them.
Yeah.
9, Golden State. Like you said, basically what you said.
Yeah.
Same thing. 10, Orlando.
So who did I have on that you had off? The Clippers.
Yeah. Sorry. Clippers? No. They're the Clippers. Point 1, they're the Clippers. Point 2.
I can't quit them.
I'm on Kawhi forever.
James Harden. James Harden is a guy that they're going to have to count on in the playoffs.
James Harden is a great counterpoint to Kawhi Leonard. There's no comeback really on that.
And that's all I got for that. So, Aaron, what's your top 10?
Similar to Matt's in a lot of ways. OKC, obviously.
I hope you have New Orleans in here, by the way, to stay committed to the bit.
When you said we were going 1 to 10, I wanted to surprise New Orleans in there, but I just couldn't find a path to make that happen.
By the way, dumbest move.
Clearly, New Orleans thinks that they belong on that list. So,
CSU Rams killer.
Derek
Queen now in the roster for a hefty price.
Yeah.
Denver Nuggets number 2.
Yep.
Their odds skyrocketed as soon as they made the trades. They were like plus 1,600. Now they're down anywhere from 700 to 800.
Right.
Should have made your money a week ago.
Yeah. If you would have put some money down a week ago, man, you're looking good.
I'm riding with Vegas on that one. They pushed OKC to 7 with a suspect and injured roster, and now they're stacked. So I can't imagine they somehow get worse in a 7-game series.
Yeah, no. I just had a hard time finding the logic with Cleveland and Houston to go over them, but they're interchangeable, I think. You having them Cleveland at 5 is baffling to me.
Massively skeptical of that team.
I put Cleveland at 3 because of their success in the regular season, but again, my note says they sucked in the playoffs, so hard to believe necessarily at 3. Knicks 4.
Garland hurt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Why are you scoffing at that? He's like an all-star.
And in fairness, Spiders had a lot of chances with a lot of good teams and still hasn't gotten there.
I believe in Donovan Mitchell more than Jalen Brunson.
I believe in him a lot.
Jalen Brunson's actually been to conference finals. Jalen Brunson gets it done in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We'll see. I thought he was terrible defensively in that Pacers series. And also...
that was a tough team to defend. The Pacers were... That was a good team.
I think it was a pretty major problem. I think I've said this on the podcast, I'm pretty sure, but I think Cat got way too much of the blame pie on that one.
Fair enough. All right, let's go.
Knicks.
4?
At 4.
Okay.
Cons, 1973.
You don't have Houston yet?
I'm getting there. Number 5, Houston.
Okay.
Yeah, why is it the Clippers are the Clippers, but the Knicks aren't the Knicks?
The Knicks have been to NBA Finals. The Clippers have never been to an NBA Finals in my lifetime.
I don't know if it counts. My dad's a Raiders fan, and I tell him those rings don't count because, it was 41 years ago that they won one, so the Knicks are even longer than that.
Yeah, but the Knicks have been to a Finals in 99 and in 95? It was the OJ year, 95. That's a team.
They got in as an 8 seed in a fluky season.
Did they not make the finals?
I guess.
They just made the conference finals. You know how many times the Los Angeles Clippers have made the conference finals? Once.
I am
one
curious.
time ever.
I have them at 8, so I'm not saying they're going to win. But, do you think they're going to be worse this year?
Who are the Clippers?
Yeah.
I think they'll be about the same.
They didn't, they're still what they were. They added Brook Lopez in a role where he doesn't have to be like a heavy usage starting center. He's going to be perfect with Zubats defensively and offensively for that matter. And I like Kawhi. I just think they deserve a spot in the 10 if we're entertaining teams that clearly aren't going to win the championship.
James Harden's on that team still, right?
Okay.
My knock on the Rockets and why I have them at 5 is Kevin Durant was born in the 80s. He's getting old. He's in elite company as a plus 35 elite scorer, but
he also just torpedoed another franchise.
Yeah, you're rolling the dice on a guy who torpedoes franchises, and he's old.
Okay, so that's 5.
6, T-Wolves. Love Ant.
Who doesn't?
Again, to Bennett's point, I think that they probably did get a little worse.
I agree.
But maybe Ant's getting that much better. Who knows? 7, Lakers, Luka.
Yep.
We'll see what happens with LeBron and if Bronny can make a massive leap.
You a dominating guy?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
if
I like
ever-
Ayton with those guys. Like,
Here's what I would
why
say.
would he not be better with Luke on his team?
Right. So
That's the thing.
So-
No, that's fair.
He was
Yeah.
really good with Phoenix.
he
for
was
a minute.
Yes, he was. And the biggest problem with him has always been what's between his ears, right?
Yep.
If ever there was a player that could shake him free of that, it might be, the second greatest player to ever play the game. Maybe he'll listen to that guy. I don't know.
No, it's fair.
That's the hopeful thing.
No, the upside is there. That's why to me, it could be a disaster.
Yes.
But to me, I was like, I don't know. They had a fair case to be higher than the Knicks easily to me still.
No. Okay.
I'm pretty low just on their ceiling. I don't think they're a bad team. The ceiling is what has me extremely skeptical.
I like how feisty they were with the Nuggets a couple years ago. I think Luka's a huge upgrade for them.
Yep.
LeBron obviously getting so much older. We don't know.
Yeah, we have no idea what he's going to be. I mean, he's been great, so.
But if they can tap into that feistiness and Luka can ascend like he did when they went to the finals, the Mavs, I think they could be a spoiler at least at some point in the playoffs.
This is the other thing. Brunson just went to a conference finals. Luka's been to an NBA finals, so I'm going to give him a little more benefit of the doubt as far as the superstar at the spearhead of a team.
Which conference?
What? No, this
That's
is
why I have
you're
those
helping
East
my
teams
case.
No.
Luka made the finals in the West.
Yeah,
the West
no,
was
I'm
much
talking
better
about-
than making the conference finals in the East.
But he's going to be playing in a conference that includes OKC, Denver, and Houston, which, in my estimation, are the three best contenders in the league.
And the Wolves are an absolute dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the problem. All right, go ahead.
I can't quit Kawhi. Number 8, the Clippers.
There we go. There we go.
I'll never quit him. He might be my favorite player ever. I don't know. He's special.
I love Kawhi.
Who doesn't?
He's fine.
Again, cons, James Harden. Number 9 and 10. Again, we're running out of space here. We get Kyrie back. The defense is good. Cooper Flagg's a day one.
Oh, I love this.
The Mavs number 9. Cooper Flagg comes in ready to go.
Oh, it's a horrible take, but I love it.
I have to have a horrible take.
I thought about Philly in that bad take.
On my very first
buy
high
Philly.
upside spot.
I would buy Philly before Dallas, for sure.
On my first iteration of the list, I started at 10 and put Sixers.
It's not too late. You haven't said 10 yet, so
It's too late. I put this in and already wrote my number 10, the Warriors.
all right. Yeah.
The con is they're nearly a decade removed from their peak,
Yeah.
which is
it's pretty hard to see them.
unless they're the Spurs, I don't think they can go that long between ascending again.
No, the Spurs had Tim Duncan.
They did.
So
And
we both had we had the same 10? Or no, you didn't have Orlando. You had Dallas. I'm glad that we all had at least one difference.
Yeah.
That's so funny. I was actually having an argument recently with some friends about how I think, because I have a friend who's fairly high on Dallas and thinks they could somehow get a top 6 seed or something this year.
That's not happening.
And
That's not happening.
I said, that's not happening. But if we were ranking who you want to be for the next 3 to 4 years, I would maybe have Dallas pretty high in the pecking order.
They do have Cooper Flagg. And Kyrie will get healthy
You
again.
get Kyrie back. You get Flagg's development. You have AD still for a couple years before he really starts to decline, maybe.
Although, do we really know is Kyrie going to be the same when he comes back? He's getting up there in age.
Fair questions, yeah, no doubt.
I don't know where Giannis lands either. I would like to speculate a team where he could end up
Giannis
and
Turner.
that team makes the list.
Kind
I
of
feel bad
depressing.
leaving the Bucks off this because
I
he's
know.
so good.
He's
but
so good. It's
Yeah.
kind of depressing for them to not be on any of our top 10s.
I don't get mortgaging your future so that you can bring in
I think it was a terrible move.
maybe the third best player on the Pacers.
Yeah.
I don't get it at all.
Just put up with the contract and get it out of the way.
Yeah.
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 It's so bleak now to have a
Right.
it's a Jabari Smith in dead cap space
Yes.
now.
Right.
It's
Yeah. The Suns were
for
talking
5
about
years.
the Suns were talking about doing the same thing with Bradley Beal's contract.
No. Yeah, just
don't. You got to just
I think
take your medicine. You take your medicine, you move on.
Yeah.
All right. Good rankings. Nice job, guys.
Yeah, that was good. I appreciate the Hawks. The Sixers probably should have made one of our lists just to be the wild card. What if Embiid's healthy?
I mean, they could be something. I don't like. Does Paul George have anything left? That's the thing. I just don't know.
Didn't look like it.
No.
But I also don't think it's unreasonable to think that he can have a bounce back year of some sort. He's not going to be that bad. He might not be borderline All NBA like he was 2 years ago, but like
he looked really bad.
I think that he will be better. I understand it's a low bar, but I think he'll be better. So you can see the path with him, with a healthy Embiid. I say laughing kind of. With Maxey, with McCain back after the flashes that he showed. Edgecombe seems like a rookie who smart draft people seem to really like.
Yeah, he's like a glue guy, right? Yeah. Like that's essentially what he's going to be. So kind of what they needed. Okay. All right. Before we go, we got to talk about the NBA Finals because that was a fantastic.
I don't want to talk about it that much if I'm being honest.
That was
it kind of just bums me out.
Thoroughly enjoyed that finals. The very first game was a classic. Game one was incredible. With Haliburton making the jump shot right at the end. That was great.
It would have been a real classic if they had won the series.
I think what's so funny about it is how it was almost a carbon copy of the Nuggets series. Like
it's really strange how similar it was.
In so many ways, right down to major injury game 7. Aaron Gordon was basically on one leg for game 7 for the Nuggets, and the Pacers lose Haliburton in the first quarter when he's shooting laser beams out of his eyes. And who knows what happens if he's healthy. I think they might win that game. It's sad. I was really sad. I was so dissatisfied by the end of that series because it's like we didn't get the Game 7 we deserved. We deserved a classic because that series right up into that point was incredible. And that Pacers team, I fell in love. I loved that team.
I did too. I was actually I felt bummed as if I was actually a fan of the Pacers when it was all playing out that Game 7. And
me too.
I haven't been
sorry. I was just not even a hate for OKC. I know a lot of people on NBA Twitter really don't like them, and there are some frustrations. But I don't think they're an unlikable team really. It was just the Pacers won me over that much. Yeah.
That Game 7 disappointed me as much as Matrix Revolutions. That trilogy started out so strong, and then it was just that's how we're going to end it.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
I don't particularly love OKC. It's more, it has to do with Seattle than anything else.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, that Pacers team, they were just so lovable. The way that they just would pull these crazy comebacks. Game 1 was incredible.
Yeah. I think Game 1 Pacers-Knicks is probably a top 5 game of this century so far.
It's an all-timer.
It's on a very short list of the best games ever.
And they had multiple of those in this playoff run.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a
crazy
team. What a team. And now Haliburton's gone for a year. And their starting centers with the Milwaukee Bucks.
With the team that they're
a bitter rival,
getting into sideline altercations with every time they play.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's all because their ownership clearly thought they could play hardball.
Yeah. Well, in their defense, they didn't know that the Bucks were going to do that crazy crap that they pulled with Damian Lillard stretching his contract.
Agree. But they don't deserve our defense is kind of what I think. You had a team that was that close to the championship, just pay the tax, pay the man.
Yeah.
It's not agree. It wasn't like they were going to the second apron if they paid him, and you could at least portray it as competitive reasons to not pay him a certain amount of money. It was literally just the tax bill for the owners. So pretty disappointing.
I feel so bad for those fans because that arena was fantastic for those games.
Yeah. You were there?
No.
I'm joking. I was in King Soopers doing some grocery shopping. I think it was between games 6 and 7, and there was just a guy in the King Soopers wearing the one of the T-shirt giveaways from one of the Pacers Knicks games. I think the Vroom shirt from the day that they played the same day as the Indy 500.
Yeah,
and I was like, I wish I had asked if he was at that game because I don't know how else he would have gotten the shirt so quickly unless they were just selling them online or something. But
hey, Aaron, you have something to say?
Just love the series. One of the peak moments, James Johnson gets a couple minutes of run and promptly gets ejected. Hall of Fame stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty great.
Yeah,
it had everything.
Yeah, if I'm the Pacers, much like the Nuggets, I'm thinking about that game 4. I mean, they had the series right there, and they couldn't. Their offense just went to crap in the last 6 minutes of that game. It was right there. If they win that game, they don't have to go to Game 7, and they might not have Halliburton ripping his Achilles, and they win the finals.
Yep.
Man, they're going to be thinking about that for the rest of their lives.
That and the injury itself.
Yeah.
And TJ McConnell going off, but then flying too close to the sun and trying to bite off a little more than he could chew.
Yeah, but I mean,
I thoroughly enjoyed TJ McConnell in that series. He was so good.
Michael Malone vindicated.
The one play where he basically picked off an inbounds pass like 2 feet in front of the inbounder, that was so cool. That was such an amazing...
No, he did. Well, he did that like 4 times.
Well, but no, there was one where he just clean.
No, I know. Yeah, it was Caruso. It was a really lazy inbound pass, and Shea's back was to the play, and he caught it clean. It was a great play. That was kind of what flipped Game 3. I think it was Game 3, and they got 4 quick points out of it.
Yep.
And then kind of ran away in the last few minutes.
Yes.
Yeah. They should have won. It's bums me out.
What a fun series. And so many guys that Nembhard, really enjoyed watching him play.
Led to a lot of Peyton Watson discourse, by the way, because Peyton was drafted 1 spot before Nembhard.
I mean, okay. What's his name? Obi Toppin.
Love Obi Toppin. Yeah.
What an enjoyable watch.
Yeah.
There were so many lovable guys on that team.
Him getting to have his moments against New York, too.
Yeah.
Pretty fantastic.
Yes.
Yeah.
100% agree. Just a shame. I wish we could play that Game 7 over with a healthy Halliburton, get the Halliburton all the way in.
The Halliburton. It never quite earned an acknowledgement in the mainstream, that nickname. I guess for fair reasons.
Yes.
But
those memes of him superimposed on.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Ridiculous stuff.
One known terror leader. They're so funny.
Yeah, what? Oh man, 10 out of 10. Well, no, 9 out of 10 because of what happened in Game 7. Because it could have been even better.
I'll leave you with this. I was visiting my parents over the weekend and early this week. Went into my mother's office, met a few of her coworkers, and learned that she had played the reading of her podcast review out loud to her coworkers.
That's great.
She was very satisfied by us reading her review of the podcast. So thanks, Mom.
Was it Bennett's mom? She's actually Bennett's mom?
I said in the moment it was actually Bennett's mom.
I thought you were joking that it was actually Bennett's mom.
No.
We knew it was Bennett's mom the whole time.
100% her. Yeah. Yeah, and played the portion of the podcast in which Matt read the review to her office. Yeah. So apologies to her coworkers for that.
Yeah, pretty great. Which reminds me, if you haven't already, iTunes, 5 stars. Lie with your stars. Tell the truth with your review. I don't think I have any emails to get into, but if you do want to send us some, we're going to have plenty of time to talk about that stuff now that the season's over. mschubert@denverpost.com. If you want to talk off season, whatever, throw it my way. We'll get into it. Fascinating last week in the NBA. Mm-hmm. Who knows? Next week, maybe LeBron's traded and we got even more to talk about. Hey, Ron, Bennett, thanks for joining me. Had a good time. We'll be back here again soon.
Looks like we have another dragon, Master Ace, spitting the burning passion. It's about to be a catastrophe. Thought I was the only survivor, but at last we meet. Like the food vegans don't eat. I know you can see the infernal blaze. We would probably burn the stage and leave it with 3rd degrees. And inside of us is an eternal blaze, blazing eternally like a furnace. But it's so hot it's burning the furnace's frame. Your family and furniture isn't safe. Better evacuate, cause the skill we can calibrate reduces the chances of your survival if you ever try to retaliate. So dance to this recital so you can slowly gravitate towards us. Who needs a chorus when you're hotter than Earth's core is? No strings attached with no puppets, yo, we're cordless. I fly even when I'm hurt, yo, that's soaring. Your skill isn't apparent, it's an orphan. We proceed to spit the verse that takes your spirit and lifts it high into the earth's atmospheres. Don't come at my sphere of influence, you squares. I take a spear and put it through you, I raise the stakes. Ha, medium rare, you're the least of the media's fears. Why he's the reason the media's scared. Please be prepared to be impaired. Go seek repairs, defeating people in pairs. Jordans, I thought I needed pairs to be compared to the people in pairs.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Gather round hip-hoppers as if you're still living. Still got love for the game, I'm still giving and still driven. Like Diddy in the Maybach. I've been repping for the city since way back. All y'all rappers better stay back, cause you still can't find me. I'm a needle in a haystack, a rare breed sitting high up in the chariot. What y'all do is getting high up in the Marriott. Well, consider this your wake-up call. If you're married to the game, this the breakup call. And you ain't wearing a crown if you're not tearing it down. You clowns get found right there in the ground, 6 feet, dirt nap, that's because your shit's weak. I'm a giant, you a pipsqueak. Welcome to my kingdom, yup, the throne has an occupant. Read my name at the bottom of the document. Check the scroll, I'm giving good times like Esther Roll. Peace to Keithy E, God bless the soul. Trying to get more checks to hold. On some slick Rick, Mr. T shit, big chest of gold. And the flow's still extra cold, like the North Pole, cocaine snow, another lost soul. Bow down, it's the Grand Royal, yup. 20 plus years in the game, and still the fans loyal.